Side Hustle Show 168. It's the best passive income model. An update from a listener who took action.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
What's up? Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where it's all about ideas, action, and results. Today's episode is part one of at least a two-part series on listeners who took action on an episode they heard last year. That episode was number 108 with Mark Podolsky. Mark calls himself the land geek, and he calls raw land investing the best passive income model because there's no product to build, there's no audience to build, there's no tenants or toilets, and you can get started without a huge upfront investment. And Mark actually explained how he started last year with 10 $300 investments, which quickly tripled to $9,000. So if you missed that episode, or if you want to go revisit it, you can do so at sidehustlenation.com/land. Or you can hang out and hear what today's guest, Josh Brooks, has today on the subject, because he lays out pretty much step by step how he sources his deals, how he finds buyers, and how he sets himself up for recurring passive income. Josh is an Army Battalion Commander. He's an alumni of the Side Hustle Nation Inner Circle Mastermind, and he's the founder of the Enduring Charity Foundation, which I think is actually a really cool concept, because instead of a one-time donation to your favorite charity, you can set up your own mini endowment fund that lives on in perpetuity. So that's one of his side hustles in addition to the land investing. Now, Josh has actually been investing in real estate for the past 10 years, actually a little longer, but he kind of accelerated his land investing efforts after hearing Mark on the show last year. For this one, all the notes and links are at sidehustlenation.com/land1, LAND and the number 1. Plus, while you're there, you can grab the free PDF highlight reel with all of Josh's top tips from this conversation. Let's get him on the line and hear how it is done.
About 12 years ago, I was leaving Korea with the Army, and I was actually planning on getting out and becoming a civilian. So I was going to move back to the Florida Panhandle from Korea, worked to buy a lot sight unseen in Navarre, Florida, and I think I bought it for $42,000.
Sight unseen from halfway around the world.
Yep. It was a nice lot, couple acres, riverfront. And I got to the United States and, I was kind of decompressing. I bought a little sailboat and I'm sitting out on the bay in the sailboat and the phone rings. And it's the same real estate agent that I bought the lot through. And she called and said, I just received an unsolicited offer for $65,500 for that lot. Would you like to sell it? And what are you going to do? I said, sure, why not? I was a young man and that was a lot of money. So we sold it. And I discovered that the real estate market in the Panhandle of Florida was white hot at that time. This was 2004, 2005. Subsequently, I bought another lot that I stood on the ground for about 15 minutes. Bought that at 65, had it under contract for sale at 105 before I closed on it. Bought another piece of property, 10 acres of waterfront. Most of it was wetlands. Got it for $250, 75% interest-only loan, equity out of another property to cover the other 25%, all the closing costs and the monthly carrying fees. So literally no money out of my pocket. Subdivided that one up into 4 separate lots, and in 6 months I turned $250 into $495. And that's when we learned about short-term capital gains.
Okay. So there's some advantage to holding on to this thing for 12 months.
Yeah. So I was having fun flipping land. And like many people at the time, I said, well, heck, if I'm doing this with land, why don't I try houses? So I subsequently went into playing with houses. And like most people at that time, built a big portfolio up and then got slaughtered on the downturn and had to sell a lot of properties back at a whopping loss and learn a lot of valuable lessons.
Oh, okay. Stick with the land, it's more stable in a way?
Well, watch out for the bubbles.
Yeah, okay.
But then the other piece to that is, stick with land. And here's why. I owned 14 properties at one point, and I counted it up, and it was like 22 toilets and, I don't know, like 17 or 18 air conditioning units. And every day the phone rang, and it was just miserable. I don't ever want to do that again. Tenants and toilets, they call it. Things kind of died down. And then a couple of years back, once I got my feet back under me, I was kicking around the real estate market, and I picked up a couple of canal front lots on eBay at auction down in Cape Coral. I was listening to your podcast, a loyal follower of the Side Hustle Show. We bumped into Land Geek and we bumped into Land Academy. That's Steve Butala and Jill DeWitt.
Okay.
And, just consuming their information and listening. And the premise is you take land, buy it at a very deep discount, and then you turn around and you make it available to a much broader market through monthly seller financing at a much higher valuation than from whence you bought it. And it creates a source of passive income.
Yeah, this is kind of a fascinating model. This is all part-time from your Army job.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I work full time, and the spaces in between, I do philanthropy and side hustle stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's dial this back and talk about sourcing these deals. Obviously, finding something undervalued and then charging a nice markup on it sounds awesome. But how does that work in practice?
Okay. So the Land Geek and the Land Academy folks, basically what they tell you is go obtain the properties in a county that's rural that has a lot of properties that owe back taxes and that sort of thing. Typically, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Southeast California, Utah, Colorado. There's some areas out there. And then what you do is you find the property that you want. So let's say today I'm going after 40-acre parcels. I either get a list from the county and I scrub it, or I go to a property document provider, like, for example, Agent Pro 24/7. You basically go in and you say, Cochise County, 40 acres, owner out of state, tax delinquent, and it gives you a list, and you can buy that list at like 5 cents a record, and then you scrub it. You get rid of all the people out of country. You get rid of all the records that have incomplete information, and typically you pull 200 records and you get 150 good ones, and then you have a form letter. You mail merge into the form letter, and then you send those offers out, and they're basically unsolicited purchase offers. And for a 40-acre parcel, I was sending out offers for $2,500.
Because there's no real, it's really hard to find comps on something that size, or it's the sales are kind of rare.
I guess so. I mean, you can find comps, and some people do a much more appropriate kind of valuation that they use to develop their offer price. But you listen to Steve Butala and Jill DeWitt, and they talk about anything below 5 acres, you want to offer $500, and then going up from there, you want to add $100 an acre. And when you're at 40 acres, you want to offer somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000. So I'm just kind of experimenting.
Okay.
You throw 100 letters in the mail and you get a 1% to 2% response rate, not counting the people that call you back that are angry and
angry at your lowball offer.
Yeah, exactly. Nick, you got to get the vernacular right. It's not lowball, it's forced value generation.
Forced value generation. Okay.
Yeah. You're forced value generating. And the idea is, people call back and go, "Hey, thanks, but 2,500 is too low." And you go, "Hold on a minute, let me look at my spreadsheet. Oh, my assistant, they priced that one wrong. I'm sorry. Let me go back and look." If somebody's interested, how interested are you to sell? Do you owe back taxes? What would you take for it? And you just start the discussion there.
Do these leads lists include that back tax delinquent amount?
Yes. But like any list you pull, some of the information is dated, some is incorrect. And that's the thing is you can honestly say, "Hey, let me take a look. I'm not sure I've got the best information, so I may not have made you the best offer."
So you can get this information publicly from the counties. It's just a lot of legwork to make it happen. So that's why these aggregators like Agent Pro 24/7 make it easy for 5 cents a lead.
Right, because first of all, from the county, you got to ask. Then they've got to mail. Some of them charge. The information comes in a format that may not be easy enough. And I've just done Agent Pro 24/7.
So these landowners are probably getting these similar letters from a bunch of different people. If this is a strategy that's been talked about on different podcasts and stuff like that, anything you're doing to make your offer or your letter stand out?
To kind of answer your first sentence, I don't think so.
Okay.
Think about it this way. There are more than 3,000 counties in the United States. Conservatively, there's, I was looking at a small county the other day, and there were 250,000 properties in that county. 250,000 properties per county times 3,000 counties, talking about 750 million properties. Say 20% of those are the kind of properties we're looking for. It's 150 million properties. Well, and I would tell you that Land Geek says this all the time. He's like, this is not sexy. You're never going to see a show on HGTV about people buying dirt and trading paper. It's not exciting.
Well, the kind of money you're talking about is exciting.
Yeah. The thing that they talk about, both Land Geek and Land Academy talk about, is to distinguish yourself, you put an offer, an actual offer, and a closing date. So a lot of people get, I want to buy your property, call me. But these guys say, I'm going to buy your property. I'm going to give you cash for your property and take this tax burden off your hand. Your 40-acre property, I'll give you $3,000 cash and we'll close before, April 26th.
Okay.
And the amount we agree on is the amount you get in your hand. No fees, no silliness. A notary will show up at the time and place of your choosing. With the deed, you sign, notarize, he hands you a cashier's check, life goes on.
Okay. And then so you're responsible for that purchase price at the cash agreed upon price and the whatever back taxes that are owed.
And the recording fees, because you got to send it to the county, and normally they charge anywhere from $12 to $50 to record.
So not a huge percentage wise there.
Right.
Getting these lists, blasting out these form letters, not a huge time commitment. How much time would you say you're spending on this every week or every month?
Land Geek and those guys talk. There's a guy over there that's really, really intelligent. His name is Scott Todd, and he talks about 20 a day. He basically has 20 ready to go, and as he finds 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there throughout the day, he does 20.
That would be your slight edge habit of just say, I'm going to do this day in, day out, and I know I'm going to get a 1% to 2% response rate, and a certain percentage of those will become deals.
Butala and the Land Academy people, they recommend you go through like click to print. So basically you take your scrubbed list, you upload it onto a printer website, and they print it and ship it off, and you never touch the letters. But a lot of people are big on, the handwritten address on the front gets you a response rate that's much higher.
That doubles your response rate? That's definitely worthwhile, right?
Yeah. And then the other one that I haven't tried yet that I've heard about is they'll go to this one works for me really well. They'll go to the toy store and buy a can of those little army guys, and they'll put one army guy in each envelope. I mean, who's not going to open that to figure out what's in there?
Yep, absolutely. The lumpy mail trick. I like it. So this is the forced value generation. What comes next after that?
You build a marketing package. The marketing that I'm doing right now is primarily through a property sales website called LandWatch. So if your audience goes to landwatch.com and they type in my name, Josh Brooks, they can see the marketing packages. I typically do a PowerPoint presentation of the properties using Google Earth, using images from the area, using comparable sales, using all the different, tax collector and property appraiser. I'll put together a slideshow, and then I'll save that as a PDF. So people who want a slide packet, they have that. I'll save all those pictures as JPEGs. So those are the kind of pictures I can use on social media and in the listing. And then I'll use a screen recorder, and I put it up over the PDF slide deck. And then I go through the slide deck and basically narrate it, upload that to YouTube, and there's your video. That's the marketing package that I use. Typically, that stuff goes up when I have a verbal agreement. I don't wait to get a recorded deed back in hand.
Are you targeting so I'm on your LandWatch page right now. Are you targeting other investors with this, or just people who want to move out to the countryside?
Yes.
Yes, both.
And part of it is, what does the property look like? So there's a couple of properties that sold very quickly that are in a mountainous area. You're never going to get an RV or an automobile up there. You're never going to build a house up there. They're accessible by foot or by ATV, and that's how they're going to be forever. And the person that called and wanted that property said, I want a place where I can ride my ATV, where we can set up, camp, hike. Lake Mojave's 5 miles away. That parcel borders BLM land. There's the potential to hunt, all kinds of hiking, all kinds of ATV. That was the right property for that person.
I should ask before, what kind of you're buying all of these sight unseen. You're not flying out to Nevada or Arizona for each deal.
All sight unseen.
Okay. Is there a risk in doing that? Seems, I guess it's not a huge sum of money, but have you ever had anything backfire or go horribly wrong? You find out there was some ancient Indian burial ground or something on the land?
No, because first of all, you've got to change your mindset. Everybody thinks because it's land and because you have to do, a deed and record it with the county that it's this big scary thing. It's just another commodity. It's like buying and selling coins. It's like retail arbitrage or whatever. You buy it cheap, you sell it at a profit.
Yeah, buy low, sell high. Okay.
Yeah. And then, the other piece to this is you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to make sure of what you're buying, who you're buying it from is actually the owner. You got to check taxes. You got to check liens and encumbrances. You've got to be smart about how you do it. And especially for the new investor, either you need to partner up with somebody who's done it so they can talk you through it, through coaching or whatever, or you go to a title company and say, I'm going to outsource the due diligence of this property to you. Because if a title company does it and they turn around and go, okay, we've looked at it and we're willing to sell you a title insurance policy on it, then you know that the due diligence is good.
And most of these are sold as seller financing.
That's the idea. And I think this is the thing that has the real appeal to your audience. And I'll just kind of run through some numbers so that you can get a feel for it.
Okay.
Say I buy a property at $800, which is not uncommon, and I list it for sale at $1,995. You wouldn't believe how many people will just be like, okay, that sounds like a good price. You just made a $1,195 profit.
Okay.
So divided by 800, that's 149%. So flipping is very, very lucrative. I mean, flipping, I don't know where else you can get returns like this.
Double your money and a little bit extra.
Yeah. Now, let's say we take the same $800 property and we say, and now I do it low. A lot of people have additional fees. A lot of people sell them for much more than I do because they can afford to. But I want to generate some velocity, and I'll tell you about my overall strategy in a minute.
Okay.
But let's say $49 down and then $49 a month for 72 months. That's basically 73 payments of $49. So I bought an $800 property, and it's going to return to me $3,577, of which $2,777 is profit over the next 6 years. Is there a better passive income model out there, Nick?
Well, that's always Mark's thing. I think I've got the best passive income model.
And I think he does too.
It's like a car payment. I'm going to buy this over the course of 72 months. I'm going to pay a little bit extra than I would if it was a cash deal, or they don't even see the cash price. They just say $49 a month. I could own this gigantic piece of land. That's awesome.
Well, and everybody does it a little differently. I offer the either or. And I say, if you want to pay it off early, there's no penalty. And I'll even cut some of that difference between the cash price and the seller financing price off, every month that you pay off early.
How are you setting these monthly payments or like these cash purchase prices?
Let's say that $800 property. Actually, let's go on LandWatch and I find a property that's listing for $4,000. So I've got 2.5 acres in, Jones County or whatever. And it's the lowest price that I can find for that property, for that comparable property that is listed for sale on LandWatch is $4,000. Okay. I want to list it for sale for half of that. So I want to sell it cash for $2,000. Now, to do that, I want to buy it. So I want to sell it at 50% of my next competitor, and I want to buy it at 12 to 25% of that price. So if I go and make an offer for that piece of property anywhere between $500 and $1,000, I can turn around and have just an absolutely crazy smoking deal when I sell it for $2,000, or I can finance it in the neighborhood of $4,000 and divide that by 73 payments, and there's $54 a month.
Okay.
So again, just to kind of recap, the lowest price on LandWatch. Now, if there's an outlier, sometimes there's one that's crazy cheap, and that'll be gone soon. But if you see, one at $1,000 and then several at $4,000, your lowest price is $4,000. You want to buy at 12 to 25% of that, and you want to sell at 50% of that cash, and then finance at 100%.
And so the goal here, or one of the strategies here, is just to create a bunch of these different passive income streams. I have somebody paying me $49 a month, another guy's paying me $100 a month, and it just, all of that adds up.
Right. So let's say, hypothetically, I can get an average monthly payment of $75 a month, and my goal is $20,000 a month of passive income. 20,000 divided by 75 is 267 properties, but some of them are not going to be paying, right? Because some people default and then it takes a month or two to get them resold. Some of them are in process of buying, some of them are in process of selling cash, etc. let's say only 70% pay. So we divide by 0.7.
Is that 30% default like in real estate, like, or 30% vacancy like in rental housing? Sounds like crazy high. Is that common though for the land deals?
That's what they say. They say you can expect about a 30%. And with regard to this style of real estate investing, I'm relatively new. But
the cool thing is you own it outright, so you don't have a mortgage on it where you're worried about like, oh man, if the tenant doesn't pay, all of a sudden my $300 cash flow is like a $1,200 cash sink.
Well, and that's on the ownership side. Now, the other thing that's very exciting about this is on the sales side. You don't sell by recording a deed and taking a note. You sell with the land purchase agreement, which basically says it's like a car payment. You're going to make payments, and when you make all the payments, then I will give you the deed. And if you stop making payments, I'm essentially going to repo the property by declaring the contract null and void, and all the money that you've paid, I keep.
Okay. And so 30% of the time that happens, and you just find a new buyer.
And at some point, these properties, that 30% of the properties, the money that you've collected from a couple of defaulting buyers has returned your principal, and now it just becomes an ATM.
So how close are you to your 200-something property goal in this cash flow?
Oh, I think I've got 22 properties right now with another 2 in play. But again, part of this is get it set up, get my system set up, because I'm still trying to discover what exactly works. It's a lot of manual stuff for me. Once I figure out what systems work and where things sell, I can automate and outsource, and then I'm going to begin buying very aggressive.
This is a really cool side hustle. So I'm sure there's a lot more that people need to know, but for people just getting started, I know you recommended the Land Academy podcast, and of course there's Mark's show that we talked about last year, The Land Geek. Anywhere else people should check out? Yeah,
24jbrooks@gmail.com. Give me a call. Or send me an email. I'll be happy to, because here's what's going to happen is if you help somebody, one day they're going to send a letter out, and the guy's going to send an email back and say, yeah, I'm happy to sell you that property. Do you want to buy my other 100?
Okay.
And if someone needs help with a takedown, I want them to remember, hey, Josh took some time, talked me through a couple of things. He always said, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the ability to take it down, call me.
All right, 24jbrooks@gmail.com. I imagine you'll get a note or two after this.
Fair enough.
Well, Josh, thanks so much. You can check Josh out at enduringcharity.org, and we'll also link up his Land Watch page. You can kind of see his marketing packages and some of the properties that he's got listed. Let's wrap this thing up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
Hustle on. Don't ever give up. And like Churchill said, don't ever, ever, ever give up. Just keep pushing through. Look at mistakes as opportunities to learn, and one day you'll get the traction, and you look back and see all those challenges as valuable learning experiences.
Hustle on. I love it, man. Thanks so much, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, Nick, take care.
All right, I know it's a good episode when I hang up the call buzzing with the possibility, like, man, I should try this stuff myself. So my top takeaways from this call with Josh: number one, get some education and take action. So Josh mentioned landacademy.com in addition to the Land Geek, who we heard from in episode 108. After the call, Josh said he did invest in the Land Geek's premium training program, which you can learn more about at sidehustlenation.com/TLG for the Land Geek. And that is an affiliate link to keep the lights on over here. But also, Josh mentioned if you have the patience and the tenacity, you can figure out all you need to know from episodes like this and other free resources. Number two is, with an estimated 150 million parcels of land in the U.S., there's almost an unlimited supply of potential deals. So, in my scarcity mindset, I was like, hey, if you're doing this and everybody else is doing the same thing, hey, there's plenty of land to go around, and they're not making any more of it. And think global, even if you want to expand internationally. So pretty exciting on that front. Number three is be consistent. This is about sending the offers, making the deals, marketing the properties, and collecting the checks. It's a numbers game. From the sounds of it, your slight edge in this business is the consistency of the action you take to fill up that deal funnel. You can head over to sidehustlenation.com/land1, as LAND1, to download a free PDF highlight reel with all of Josh's top tips from the call. And of course, if you want to catch up on the Land Geek episode from last year. That's sidehustlenation.com/land. That slug was already taken, so I had to add the one to it for this episode. Now, I mentioned this was part one in at least a two-part series on people who took action based on that Land Geek episode from last year. So I will have part two with another land investor ready to go very shortly. The episodes will listen very similarly, but maybe with some subtle differences in a couple of the strategies there. So you can be on the lookout for that. I'll get that out in the iTunes and podcast feeds very shortly. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Let's go out there, make something happen, and like Josh did. And of course, I'll catch you in the next edition of the Side Hustle Show. Hustle on.
Thanks for listening to the Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.